You think freedom means do whatever you want, right? Wrong. In America, freedom comes with a footnote, and that footnote usually says punishable by law. From collecting rainwater in your backyard to napping in your car, there's a good chance you've already committed a crime before noon. The legal system here isn't just complicated, it's a comedy sketch with handcuffs. So buckle up, law-abiding outlaw, because we're diving into 49 things Americans swear are totally legal, but could actually earn you a mugshot faster than you can say, I plead the fifth. You thought setting up a lemonade stand with your kid was a summer memory in the making, but in America, it's a federal-grade beverage crime waiting to happen. In cities like Los Angeles or Chicago, those smiling little entrepreneurs are actually violating multiple health and vending laws. Technically, you just opened an unlicensed food service establishment with no permit, no inspection, and no hand-washing station. That innocent jar of quarters is now evidence in an ongoing sting operation. The health department doesn't care that your kid used organic lemons. They care that the counter wasn't sanitized. One day it's a lemonade stand, the next, it's a court summons for operating a black market refreshment ring. Childhood innocence now costs $1,000. 2. You bought a drone to capture that cinematic backyard shot. But in states like Texas, Florida, and California, that flying camera makes you a certified airspace felon. The second it floats above your neighbor's fence, you're not a filmmaker. You're an unlicensed surveillance unit violating privacy laws. The footage might look like B-roll, but the cops see probable cause. Even if you're standing on your own property, the law says your lens crossed the line. In legal terms, you're not creating content. You're running an airborne spying operation. The fine is the least of your worries when your neighbor's lawyer starts knocking. Congratulations, Spielberg, you just turned suburbia into a restricted flight zone. 3. You thought leaving your car running for a minute while grabbing coffee was harmless, but in 15 states that's called unattended idling, and it's a ticket with your name on it. While you were inside choosing between latte or mocha, your car became an open invitation for both thieves and fines. Anti-theft and anti-smog laws treat your engine like a ticking crime scene. The cop doesn't care that you were only gone 60 seconds. He cares that the car was purring without supervision. When you return, you don't find a warm seat, you find a citation fluttering on your windshield like a love letter from the state. Congratulations, you just turned caffeine into a criminal motive. 4. Sharing prescription meds with a friend might sound like being helpful, but under federal law, it's classified as drug distribution. One pill of Adderall or Xanax, and you've gone from friend to pharmaceutical overlord. The DEA doesn't care that your intentions were kind. They care that you handed out controlled substances like Tic Tacs. Even if there's no money exchanged, you've technically started a miniature drug ring in your living room. What you see as compassion, the law sees as trafficking. That small orange bottle just turned into Exhibit A, and your best friend might end up testifying against your good heart. 5. Putting a for sale sign on your car, parked along a public street, seems like innocent advertising until the city decides you're an unlicensed dealership. In places like New York and San Diego, that handwritten sign is basically a neon confession that you're running a motor trade empire out of your curb. The meter maid doesn't see a used sedan, he sees a criminal enterprise on 4 wheels. Your attempt to skip Craigslist now looks like tax evasion with cup holders. When the fine arrives, it'll feel like you sold the car, but kept the punishment. Next time, use tape on your heart, not on your windshield. 6. Walking your dog off leash feels freeing until the local ordinance reminds you that your golden retriever is legally classified as a missile with fur. In cities like Denver or Seattle, it's a misdemeanor to let them roam untethered. The first time you get a warning, the second time, the dog gets impounded faster than he can chase his tail. You thought you were bonding, he thought he was hunting squirrels, but the law sees it as endangerment and nuisance rolled into one. The ticket isn't for your dog's bad behavior, it's for your faith in his obedience. Freedom looks cute until animal control shows up. 7. Selling homemade cupcakes from your kitchen to neighbors feels wholesome until the health inspector calls it an unlicensed food operation. In most states, your kitchen counts as a biological hazard zone the moment you charge money. Those sprinkles, contaminants, that frosting, evidence. Cottage food laws only protect you up to a point. After that, you're Gordon Ramsay with a criminal record. One positive Yelp review could turn into one surprise inspection. The fine won't ruin your baking passion, but it might make you rethink sugar as your weapon of choice. You're not hosting a bake sale, you're leading a pastry rebellion punishable by sanitation form 12B. 8. Recording someone without consent sounds harmless until you realize you just produced an illegal podcast starring yourself in a federal crime. In two-party consent states like California and Florida, everyone in the conversation has to know they're being recorded. If not, congratulations, you're now charged with felony wiretapping. The irony is delicious. You were just trying to expose drama and ended up creating your own. When the cops play back your secret tape in court, the soundtrack will be your own panic. Next time you hit record, remember you're not an undercover journalist. You're a suspect with great audio quality. 9. Feeding wild animals in national parks looks innocent until the park ranger appears like he's in a nature documentary about your arrest. In places like Yellowstone or Yosemite, even tossing crumbs to a squirrel counts as a federal offense. The logic is simple. One snack today, a bear tomorrow. The fine can hit $5,000 plus a cameo in the ranger's slideshow titled "Why We Can't Have Nice Things." You thought you were Snow White, the government thinks you're a wildlife trafficker. That chipmunk didn't need your granola bar. He needed you to read the sign that said, "Do not feed wildlife." 10. Driving with snow piled on your car roof seems like winter laziness. But in states like New Jersey or Michigan, it's considered an unsecured load. When that chunk of ice flies off at highway speed and cracks someone's windshield, you just committed vehicular assault with precipitation. The cops won't care that you were late for work. They'll care that your negligence became a snow missile. The fine might melt faster than the ice, but the embarrassment lasts forever. Scrape your roof or risk becoming the reason someone invents windshield armor. Snow angels are cute, snow criminals are not. 11. Wearing headphones in both ears while driving sounds like a peaceful escape until the police report calls it reckless isolation. In states like California and New York, you must be able to hear sirens, but you're too busy vibing to your playlist of bad decisions. The moment those flashing lights appear in your rear view, it's not your favorite chorus anymore. It's the soundtrack to your ticket. The officer doesn't care that you were in your zone. He cares that your zone blocked an ambulance. What felt like personal freedom just turned into an expensive remix called court fees. Driving is not a concert, it's a legal performance where silence keeps you free. 12. Parking in front of your own driveway seems like the most victimless crime possible until you realize the victim is the law itself. In cities like New York and San Francisco, the curb doesn't care whose house it belongs to. When the meter maid rolls by and prints that ticket, your argument about property rights dies on arrival. You can own the home now, the lawn even built the driveway yourself, but the second your bumper crosses the sidewalk line, you're a legal intruder on your own property. Freedom ends exactly where the curb begins, and it ends with a $100 fine. 13. Putting coins in someone else's expired parking meter feels like an act of civic kindness, but to some cities it's tampering with public property. In places like Boston and Portland, that helpful gesture makes you a coin-based vigilante interfering with official revenue collection. The parking officer doesn't see a hero, he sees a rival. You thought you were saving a stranger's day, instead you sparked a small financial rebellion. The law loves exact timing, not random mercy. When your hand drops that quarter, you're not being generous, you're disrupting the sacred economy of parking tickets. Next time, let the meter die in peace, it wanted to. 14. Using a fake name on a food delivery app sounds harmless until your prank gets someone a visit from the police. If that false address triggers a security response, it's classified as filing a false report. You didn't send a pizza, you sent paperwork to the local courthouse. What was supposed to be a funny inside joke is now a misdemeanor with pepperoni. Even worse, the delivery driver might testify against your comedy skills. You thought you were anonymous, but the receipt says otherwise. Congratulations, you just became the punchline of your own case number. 15. Flying a kite near power lines feels like childhood nostalgia until the grid goes dark and your hobby becomes a federal hazard. Federal safety codes treat that string like a live weapon when electricity arcs. In Arizona, it's even led to arrests for causing blackouts. You wanted to touch the sky, but you touched the power company instead. The gentle breeze now carries a $5,000 fine and a lifetime of neighborhood eye rolls. Kites were meant for open fields, not electrical fences of doom. You're not Benjamin Franklin, you're a hazard report in waiting. 16. Letting your grass grow into a jungle might seem like rebellion against suburbia, but in cities like Houston or Detroit, it's a public nuisance violation. Once those blades pass 10 inches, the city sends letters, fines, and sometimes a mower you have to pay for. What you call natural landscaping, they call property neglect. The neighbors don't see an eco-warrior, they see a mosquito sanctuary. The fine grows faster than the weeds, and soon you're the villain of the Homeowners Association newsletter. Cut it before the government cuts it for you. The real crime isn't long grass, it's pride in chaos. 17. Selling concert tickets above face value makes you feel like a capitalist genius until you learn the state calls it illegal scalping. In New York or Missouri, you need a license to resell. That $100 markup isn't hustle, it's a misdemeanor. The law doesn't care that the show sold out, it cares that you profited on enthusiasm. You're not a fan. You're a black market entertainment mogul with poor judgment. The ticket may be digital, but the fine is very real. Next time, enjoy the music instead of starring in your own courtroom drama. 18. Washing your dog in a public fountain sounds cute on Instagram until the city calls it misuse of municipal water. In places like Chicago or Miami, the fountain is for art, not for your muddy golden retriever. You think you're being resourceful, the law thinks you're running a canine spa on taxpayer property. The fine could buy you a lifetime of dog shampoo. When the tourists stare, it's not admiration, it's disbelief. You wanted clean fur, you got a criminal record and a damp leash. Public fountains are for coins, not canines. 19. Taking rocks or sand from a beach feels like bringing home a memory, but the state sees it as theft of natural resources. In Hawaii and California, those little souvenirs are protected by law. You want a jar of vacation, now you owe a $1,000 fine and maybe an apology to the ocean. The funny part is you carried a rock that carried your name straight into a government report. Nature belongs to everyone, which legally means no one gets souvenirs. The beach forgives, but the state does not. 20. Holding a garage sale without a permit looks innocent until City Hall shows up mid-bargain. Many towns limit how many times a year you can play thrift store tycoon. Every stickered toaster and dusty lamp becomes evidence of illegal commerce. You thought you were decluttering, the law thinks you're running a shadow retail empire. The inspector doesn't even haggle, he just hands you a fine instead of $5 for that old blender. Your driveway is not a mall, it's a misdemeanor waiting for price tags. 21. Pointing a laser pointer at the sky feels like innocent curiosity until a pilot reports your dot as a weapon. Federal law treats that tiny beam like an assault on aviation. Even a second of glare can blind a cockpit and ground an aircraft. The FBI doesn't care that you were just bored on your porch. They care that you endangered hundreds of people and interrupted flight schedules. That green glow in the sky becomes evidence faster than you can blink. The penalty can reach 5 years in prison and a fine that could buy you your own plane. Next time, point your light at the ground where only your cat will judge you. 22. Letting your kid ride shotgun under age 12 feels like bonding time until blue and red lights flash behind you. In over a dozen states, it's a primary offense, meaning the officer doesn't need any other reason to pull you over. You thought your child was co-pilot material. The state thinks you just endangered a minor. The fine hurts, but the lecture from the cop hurts more. Safety seats exist because apparently common sense doesn't. Your kid may look thrilled, but you just taught them the backseat of justice. Buckle up in the rear where rebellion is still legal. 23. Posting someone's license plate online sounds like public accountability, but if it leads to harassment, you just crossed into anti-doxing territory. States like California and New York can treat that as a privacy violation. You wanted to expose a bad driver, but now the court sees you as an accessory to intimidation. The irony is delicious. You went viral for outing someone else and ended up outing yourself. Internet justice is rarely legal justice. Delete the photo before the algorithm delivers it straight to the evidence folder. The road to prison is paved with good intentions and blurred plates. 24. Using a fake service dog vest on your untrained pet might look clever until the fines roll in. Over 30 states classify it as fraud because it undermines real disability rights. Your Chihuahua isn't performing a service unless that service is chaos. The moment it barks at a real guide dog, you're the villain in a very specific movie called Imposter Paws. The law doesn't care that you bought the vest online, it cares that you impersonated a medical need. The penalty can hit $1,000 and a lifetime of embarrassment. Next time, leave the costume to Halloween, not hospitals. 25. Washing your car in the driveway seems like classic weekend freedom, but in parts of California or Texas, it's a chemical crime. The soapy runoff goes straight into storm drains, polluting rivers and making fish develop trust issues. City inspectors patrol neighborhoods like detergent detectives. You wanted shine, you created contamination. The fine starts small, then doubles faster than you can rinse a hood. Ironically, the car looks spotless when you drive to pay the ticket. Clean isn't always lawful, and your garden hose just turned state witness. 26. Leaving Christmas lights up after January 15th might look festive, but some towns call it a nuisance violation. The cheerful glow of procrastination becomes a monthly fine that outlasts your holiday spirit. Code enforcers drive by in silence like Grinches with clipboards. You think you're spreading joy, they think you're lowering property values. One neighbor complaint, and suddenly you're the Scrooge of zoning law. When the lights finally come down, it's not celebration, it's relief from financial strain. Next December, start early, because joy apparently has an expiration date. 27. Selling your old phone without erasing data sounds harmless until someone finds private photos or messages. In some states, that counts as a privacy violation if it contains another person's information. You thought you were recycling technology, but you actually distributed secrets. The buyer might laugh or might call a lawyer. Either way, you're the protagonist in a digital cautionary tale. Always factory reset or risk starring in an unplanned reality show called Evidence Exhibit A. Data may disappear on screen but not in court. 28. Using a metal detector in a public park feels like treasure hunting, but many cities classify it as unauthorized excavation. Without a permit, you're technically disturbing archaeological resources. The ranger doesn't see adventure, he sees vandalism with a side of curiosity. The coins you found might cover the fine, but not the embarrassment of explaining to your friends that you were cited for historic interference. History belongs in museums, not your backpack. You weren't Indiana Jones, you were just Joe with a beeping stick and poor timing. 29. Letting your sprinklers water the sidewalk instead of the grass looks like harmless overflow, but during droughts, it's treated as water waste. In places like Arizona or Nevada, that puddle becomes probable cause for a fine. The enforcement truck rolls by slow and quiet like it's stalking criminals of hydration. Your neighbor waves while secretly reporting you to the drought hotline. By sunset, the city sends a bill big enough to dry your wallet. Conservation isn't optional, it's surveillance with sprinklers. 30. Wearing noise-canceling headphones while biking feels modern and cool until you realize you can't hear the car honking behind you. In states like Maryland or Florida, it's a moving violation worth a ticket and a bruised ego. The officer who stops you doesn't even raise his voice because you wouldn't hear him anyway. Safety laws exist, so cyclists live to ignore them again. What sounded like freedom now sounds like court fees. Remove one earbud, keep your dignity and maybe your balance too. 31. Borrowing your neighbor's Wi-Fi without permission feels harmless until you realize you've technically committed unauthorized computer access. In states like Florida or Oregon, that borrowed signal is treated like trespassing into a digital backyard. You thought you were saving on your internet bill, but the law thinks you're hacking the Pentagon. The irony is your download of cat videos just turned into evidence. When your neighbor changes the password, it's not personal, it's self-defense. Stealing bandwidth sounds funny until the fine arrives faster than the buffering bar. Get your own Wi-Fi before you become the first person arrested for streaming illegally and streaming illegally at the same time. 32. Writing a fake 5-star review for your own business feels like clever marketing, but the FTC calls it fraud. You thought you were boosting your brand, instead you were boosting your legal risk. Each fake review is technically false advertising and punishable by a fine bigger than your monthly revenue. When the inspector reads your glowing words, he doesn't see success, he sees self-incrimination. It's not social proof, it's social perjury. Your digital ego trip just became a courtroom transcript. Authenticity sells better than bail money. Leave the compliments to customers, and you might actually deserve them someday. 33. Flying a drone over a wildfire to capture dramatic footage might earn you likes, but it also earns you a federal charge. The drone forces firefighting planes to ground, and your cinematic masterpiece becomes obstruction of emergency response. Fire officials don't appreciate your artistic vision when their operations halt because of your toy. The penalty can reach $20,000 in possible jail time. The moral is simple: the only thing hotter than the flames will be your legal trouble. Put the controller down and let the professionals film it with water cannons, not warrants. 34. Selling your plasma too often might sound like easy side cash until you hit the legal limit and decide to use a fake ID. The FDA tracks those donations closely, and breaking the rule turns you into a health code outlaw. The lab technician won't see a hero, he'll see a walking biohazard with an identity problem. You can't outsmart the National Donor Database. The irony is, you gave your blood to help others, but now you'll need it for stress tests. Follow the schedule or prepare for a lifetime ban from both donation centers and common sense. 35. Protesting with a bullhorn outside City Hall feels empowering until you realize amplified sound requires a permit. The police don't mind your message, they mind the decibel level. The law says speak your mind, but whisper your volume. What started as a passionate cause now looks like disturbing the peace with surround sound. Your megaphone might project justice, but it also projects a citation. When the officer taps you on the shoulder, don't argue about free speech, argue about speaker settings. Revolutions are quieter than you think. 36. Putting political signs on public property makes you feel like a patriot, but to City Hall, you're a litterbug with a message. Every lamppost or median is government-owned, and your sign is technically defacement. The city worker who removes it doesn't debate your opinion, he just fills a bag of evidence. You didn't stand for democracy, you stood for a fine. Next time, plant your sign on your own lawn where free speech is actually free. Civic pride shouldn't require a cleanup crew. 37. Letting your Airbnb guests throw a party might make you the cool host until neighbors start recording. Cities like Los Angeles or Miami fine host thousands for unlicensed events and noise violations. The moment a disco ball spins your rental, turns into a public nuisance zone. You thought you were offering hospitality? The law says you're running a nightclub without permits? The fine hurts more than the hangover. The guests leave the next morning, but your legal headache stays for months. 38. Using a celebrity photo on your dating profile might seem funny until copyright law swipes right on your case. Pretending to be famous online can count as impersonation or fraud if anyone loses money or patience. When the police knock, they're not asking for selfies, they're serving subpoenas. You wanted matches, you got charges. The internet loves filters, but not felony-level ones. Use your own face, it's less expensive and legally approved. 39. Selling a used mattress without the proper fumigation tag sounds like a yard sale bargain until the health department shows up. Federal labeling laws require proof it's been sanitized. Without it, your garage sale looks like a biological crime scene. The inspector doesn't care that it's barely used, he cares that it's possibly haunted by bedbugs. One missing tag and your mattress becomes evidence. What you saw as recycling, the law sees as contamination with upholstery. 40. Flying the American flag upside down might seem like a bold statement until your neighbor reports a distress call. The flag code isn't criminal, but causing panic can be disorderly conduct. Firefighters may show up expecting disaster and find only your artistic protest. You wanted symbolism, they brought sirens. Freedom of expression meets emergency confusion. If you want to make a statement, maybe use words, not false alarms. The stars and stripes deserve better than your performance art experiment. 41. Letting your kid ride an electric scooter on the sidewalk looks harmless until local law calls it a moving violation. In cities like Chicago or Portland, those tiny wheels are considered motor vehicles and sidewalks are off limits. You thought it was a fun shortcut, the cop sees it as reckless driving with training wheels. The fine might be small, but the humiliation is huge. Nothing says modern parenting like a 10-year-old getting a traffic ticket before learning algebra. Next time, let them ride in the park where the only law they break is gravity. 42. Using a fake military discount seems like easy savings until the Stolen Valor Act salutes you with a misdemeanor. Claiming to be a veteran for cheaper meals or movie tickets disrespects real service members and carries real penalties. You didn't just lie for $5, you lied in federal territory. The cashier might not notice, but the internet always does. Before you flash that fake ID, remember someone actually earned those stripes. Discounts fade, but dishonor trends forever. 43. Posting a video of a child online without parental consent seems innocent until child privacy laws knock on your upload. In states like California or Texas, you need permission before broadcasting minors. You wanted to go viral, but now the court wants to go through your comments section. The platform might demonetize you, but the prosecutor can do worse. The lesson is simple: don't make content out of someone else's childhood. The internet never forgets, and neither do parents with lawyers. 44. Burning leaves in your backyard feels like old-fashioned cleanup until air quality rules classify it as open-air arson. Cities across the country ban burning yard waste to prevent pollution. You see rustic charm, the law sees toxic fumes and public nuisance. That cozy autumn scent could cost you $500 and an awkward visit from firefighters. Composting exists for a reason. It doesn't end in smoke or citations. If you miss the crackle, buy a candle, not a criminal record. 45. Setting your robot vacuum loose on the porch to clean the sidewalk looks futuristic until the city calls it unauthorized use of public space. In Seattle, someone actually got fined for this metallic act of rebellion. Your robot might be polite, but the law says it's trespassing on government property. You built a tiny janitor, the city sees a rogue machine. When code enforcement arrives, it's less science fiction and more silent confiscation. Keep your gadgets grounded before the future writes you a ticket. 46. Selling a car with an open recall without telling the buyer might seem minor, but in states like California or New Jersey, it's considered fraud. That hidden defect isn't a secret, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. When the brakes fail, the blame travels faster than the car. Honesty costs nothing, lawsuits cost plenty. Disclose the recall before the state recalls your driving privileges. The road to court is paved with silent engines and bad paperwork. 47. Wearing a mask in public while legally carrying a gun might sound like safety, but in states like Georgia or Louisiana, it can look like you're concealing identity during a crime. Even if you're innocent, the police might not wait to ask. You dressed for protection and got suspicion instead. The safest accessory is common sense. Remove the mask or risk starring in the next public misunderstanding headline. 48. Calling 911 to order pizza as a prank seems hilarious until the dispatcher traces your call. Every state treats false emergency reports as a misdemeanor and some as felonies. While real emergencies wait, your joke becomes a recorded confession. The fine can reach thousands, plus the shame of explaining your joke to a judge. The operator isn't laughing, they're logging evidence. Next time hunger strikes, call the pizza place, not the police. 49. Declaring your backyard its own independent country sounds funny until the federal government calls it sedition. The flag, the anthem, and your plastic chair throne might impress your dog, but they won't impress the FBI. America already has 50 states. It doesn't need yours. What starts as a joke can end with real charges. Sovereignty doesn't come with a lawnmower. When you print your own money, the only currency that matters is bail. So how many crimes did you accidentally commit today? From lemonade to lawnmowers, it seems the land of the free comes with a fine print and a fee schedule. America's greatest tradition isn't freedom. It's finding out it's illegal halfway through doing it. Which one shocked you the most? Drop your number in the comments. And remember, if you're still watching, you've probably broken at least one more law just by sitting still too long. Subscribe before the cops show up. This is Brain Fumble, where the only thing criminal is skipping the next video.